Welcome back everyone. Thanks as always for joining me here in the Build Your Own BPOS course. This lesson will be covering a bit of a different topic, one that we haven't discussed much of at all in our audits, alerts, and our till Keylogs report. I know it's been some time since we've had a lesson on reports or data or any kind of related topic to this, but I may have mentioned earlier in the course that we would be getting into these security features, and we might refer to them collectively as our system admin security. Anyway, you might be wondering what all of this is, and there's a few different pieces that could be involved for overall system admin security, should an organization wish to use and implement all of the features and components that we do have available related to this. So we will start with arguably the most basic component, that being our audit report, and within that we will see our non-custom audits, so the default audits that are built into the system. Then we will look at how those non-custom audits, or how any audits, can be linked to alerts and our alert system, which can be set up to trigger whenever an audit event is logged in the system. And then lastly, we will get into how to create custom transaction-based audits. Actually, what's really last was a late add-on here, so it's not on the screen, but we will, as I mentioned a minute ago, we will take a look at our till Keylogs report too. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get into it. Okay, so what are audits in BPOS? Essentially, an audit is just a log or a recording of an event that's happened in the system. We classify them into what are called audit types. Actually, if we take a look at the audit report, which can be found in the other reports menu, we will be able to see which audit types have been triggered and when they've been triggered. That's what this report does for us. Now by default, this is going to show for the current shift, which in this database doesn't give us a ton to see here. We've got 31 audit types that have been logged so far in this shift today. But yeah, depending on how busy your organization is for the current shift, or if your organization is live yet, there might not be anything, is not live yet, there might not be anything here, but you could have quite a bit more if your organization is live and it's a busy shift at the moment. I might just go ahead and run this for all time, which isn't going to be a ton of time. It's going to be the few months that we've been going through these lessons, recording these lessons anyway. But yeah, now we've got a few thousand instances of audit types being reported here. And by the way, we can call each instance of a triggered audit type an audit event. So each one having its own audit ID, which is why that's sometimes simply called an audit. But the important thing to keep in mind is just that an audit type, which we can see in this column here, they are the classification essentially, and an audit event, which we would have a separate line for each one here with its unique audit ID, is going to be a single instance of one audit type being triggered and being recorded in the system. But anyway, if I scroll down this report, we can see that there are a number of built-in default audit types that the system does record. It might be easier actually if I go to our filter and we just kind of scroll through this drop down here. We can see that there are a lot, so we will not be getting into all of our individual audit types. As you might imagine, there's just too many to go through. And I should mention that they will vary in their significance. So some of them might be relatively insignificant, just sort of run-of-the-mill occurrences, a back office logon, smart controller startup, an address was edited, something like that. Then there might be some moderately significant ones, like if an operator record was edited or a purchase order was received, things of that nature. And then there will be some much more significant audit types logged, such as if a scheduled job failed, or a database send failed, or let's say the operating system's date and time were changed. So some more serious and significant audit types that can occur. Now those are the types of things that might be enough to, raise an eyebrow or launch some investigation into an error that's occurred, or maybe prompt a conversation with an operator that's been responsible for the audit type being triggered about what or why such and such thing happened. But yeah, the long and short of it with the audit types is that for almost any process or procedure or event that happens in the system, from records being created and edited, to reports being run, to stock events being conducted, so on and so forth, there will be a record of it. Now, using the reports tool for the audit report, we can obviously filter and sort the report if there's a particular audit type maybe that we're looking for and that we'd like to investigate. So maybe we would like to look for all of the instances, all the occurrences, maybe is the better way to put it, of the date and time being changed in the system. We can do that. Just go into filter here and we can enter that in as our audit type. And yeah, by the way, I will explain later why some audit types like this one are highlighted in yellow. Yellow/maroon. If we click on one there, it goes maroon, inverted colors. But spoiler alert, it's got to do with the level and these having a warning level here. But anyway, if we break down the standard view for this report a bit, we can see the exact date and time that an audit event occurred, the workstation name, and any operator responsible. So if it is an audit type that is directly related to someone being logged in to BPOS, we would see an operator name. Of course, the date and time being changed occurs within the wider system, not specifically someone being logged in to BPOS. But yeah, and then importantly, we can see the audit type here, of course. We can also see, as I mentioned a minute ago, the audit level. So whether it's information only or more serious, something like a warning here, but more on those in a minute. And if the audit event includes any other relevant data, we will be able to see that as well. So data A and data B, and if I scroll over, we've got another column that is labeled as other info. So these columns will not have consistent data from one audit type to the next. They may not have any data at all. It will just be unique to each audit type. But yeah, we will get into alerts and alert handling next. But before we do that, I just want to mention that we can also use these flag options at the top of the report to filter it by opting to include or exclude a combination of alert types up here. I should just mention, for example, with the data A and data B columns, we can gather how these are related for this particular audit type. Data A being the initial date and time, and data B column being the date and time that were changed to. So if there's information in those columns, it will be directly related to the audit type. And cases like that, we can pretty easily figure out what they are referring to. Now, before we do get into alerts, though, I just want to drive home the use of our operator privileges as they relate to these topics. So if we just go ahead and open, I think we all know at this point in the course that there's no shortage of privilege flags that we can enable or disable to control which portions of the software someone can or cannot access or view or edit or run. So for example, of course, if we don't want someone processing stock transfers, for example, we disable that ability for them. If we do want someone to be able to maintain promotions, we make sure that their privileges will give them access to that. Now, there may only be a handful of people in an organization that can do anything in the way of operational and system setup, etc., etc. And that's where we can have some additional layers of security for the things that we are looking at today. So even if there are maybe 5 or 10 people in the business that might have some level of authority regarding operational and system setup, maybe only a few will be able to do some operational things like maintain alerts, or system setup things like maintain custom audits, which we will be looking at today. So using these privilege flags, we can really control at a high level and with a high degree of certainty who is going to be able to set up these security measures that are going to be in place. In a similar fashion, maybe there may only be a select group of system admins who can maintain data rules and sort of hold the keys to data consistency and compliance in the system. Now, we won't get into data rules today, but there could be some in place that, along with enforcing data consistency, are also going to implement some security beyond just the normal operator privileges that let someone edit a database record. So for example, we could have some data rules in place that force certain fields to be filled in or to be completed in a specific way before the record can be saved. So yeah, using those, we're able to add another level of security there too. But like I said, we won't get into data rules today. Just wanted to mention those while we are here. And then of course, we might want to also limit who has access to the audit report, which we were just looking at, and would therefore even be able to see that these audit event logs and records and which audit types have been triggered and what's occurred. So maybe some system admins who can do most things would still be actually restricted from accessing the audit report. And then we might go ahead and say that even of the admins who can view the audit report and see alerts, maybe only one or two can actually handle alerts. So we've got a separate privilege here to allow handle all audit alerts. So yeah, those operators would be the main administrators of system security, and any alert will stay active in the system until they see it and mark it as okay. Cool, but just to give you an idea of how our operator privileges tie directly into what we're looking at today. And speaking of alerts and alert handling, which I've mentioned a few times, keep saying we're going to get to them next. Let's chat a bit more about them now. So if we head to our operational setup menu, we do have a component in here, which if I scroll down is called Alerts and Contacts. Open that up here. So from this window, we can access and maintain our contact lists, which we have not covered in this course yet, but they're pretty straightforward. You can see there's going to be nothing here, of course, for a blank database, but basically we can just go ahead and add a new list. We can give it a name, call one managers. We can then add either a single operator or an operator group to this. So we might just have one for managers, and we might just put our management operator group in that. And we won't get into all the details today for our contact list and messaging and memos and that sort of stuff. But as long as the rest of the messaging and memos components are set up, and the operators in this case in this management operator group are able to receive messages, they will be able to either have messages emailed to them and or memos sent to them within SmartPods. Now I'll just go ahead and save this for demo's sake. We'll see why in a second. The main reason, of course, that we came to the alert setups is that this is also where we can create and maintain the alerts that are linked to our audits. Meaning that whenever a particular audit type event occurs and is logged by the system, an alert can also be triggered. That's why some of those that we saw in the audit report were highlighted in different colors. So for example, among this list of alerts, which by the way, these are here by default, so you should have these in your system as well, unless someone has come in and edited or deleted any of these should be in your system also. And we can see that there is one here that's been set up and linked to the date and time being changed. So that would have triggered a warning alert each time that it happened, and then in the audit report, they are going to stand out in that yellow and maroon color. And we'll get into specific options with alerts momentarily, but when they are triggered by an audit event, we can then either have a message sent directly to a contact list notifying them of an alert, so either sending them a message or a memo, or they can be notified the next time they log into back office. That's what this little icon up here is that we've seen ticking higher and higher as we've gone throughout this course, and I've just kind of left it alone because I knew that this lesson was coming and I would leave them for today essentially. But either way, having alerts set up to be sent to a contact list or to show in back office is just a more proactive approach. So rather than needing to run the audit report manually, system admin personnel can be alerted of certain audit types sooner if we would like to set up alerts for them. Now what this means from a security standpoint is that not only are the audit types in and of themselves helpful as a security measure, of course by running the audit report and analyzing which audits were triggered, but security can be enhanced further with alerts being set up. So let's say that in addition to this default list of alerts, there's another specific audit type that we want to be alerted about as soon as it happens, every time it happens. We can configure one by adding an alert setup, or we could have also edited one of those defaults, but we'll stick with this. So starting from the top, we can choose whether we want the alert to be on permanently, or we can opt to set a schedule for it. So maybe there's a particular audit type that we only need to be alerted about on weekends or after hours or something like that, and we don't need that on permanently. we can turn that off and we can add a schedule if we'd like to. Then within this audit trigger section is where we will set up all of the conditions or circumstances that need to be met for a particular alert to be triggered. Of course, beginning with the audit type here, we can scroll and search through the list to find a correct one here. We can see the full list here, so even more than we were able to see using the filter from the audit report. Now we can see that there's a few dozen or so here. We can also optionally filter or limit an alert to be triggered only for a specific venue, a specific workstation, or when a certain operator or operator group is responsible. Now in multi-venues, I should mention this as well, there will also be an option here to choose if we want the alert to trigger at the head office and the local venue, or only one or the other. Now, as far as the audit data fields and the audit other info field, these can be used as filters too. Again, these are going to be specific to each audit type, and we can refer to the audit report to find the required values that may be entered into them, and we can set some qualifying parameters here as far as those are concerned. But basically, using these fields, we can set the alert to not be triggered for all of the chosen audit types, but only select ones where the data and filters match to what we've set here. And lastly, in this section, we can set what's called the seconds delay between alerts. This would be a limiter to not send an alert multiple times if it's triggered multiple times within a short period. Well, then below that, we have our alert action section. This is where we configure what will happen, the action that will happen when the alert is triggered. So for the audit level itself, we can choose from do not change. So whatever the audit type normally is by default, it is what it is. We've got information only, which is sort of a reduced alert or just might not be serious enough to be considered a warning or critical alert. We do have warning alerts, which are the next level up, and then the next level up beyond that are critical alerts. They are the highest level. We can also opt to not log a particular audit type, but can still send a message to a contact list when it triggers this alert. Now you might be wondering why we would want to not log an audit. So another level of security admin or system admin security, however we want to word it, where maybe a quite severe audit type that's filtered to a specific operator will not be logged on the audit report because maybe that person has access to the audit report but doesn't have access to alerts. So they won't receive the alert and they won't be able to see it logged in the audit report. But then the top tier system admin doesn't want them to potentially see the report and know when they've triggered an alert. But that top tier system admin does want the message sent to themselves when the alert is triggered. So that is why we would want to not log the audit, but have an alert with a message sent to whoever does receive these alerts. And then finally, we have send to help desk. I haven't personally tested this, but my understanding is that it sends a message to our customer support team. By the way, I should mention that of these audit levels, the warning and critical alerts are the two that will trigger an alert in back office, which will add to the icon count, this 123 here. And that's for warning alerts. I should mention there will be two separate icons depending on the alerts that are set up in your system. If you have had any critical alerts triggered, there will be a separate icon with a separate counter there, but that's what those are for. So those two will trigger those. The rest will not trigger any back office alert, but they still can be sent to a contact list when they are triggered. And we can also optionally select a scheduled job to run using this drop down here. I know we haven't gotten into scheduled jobs just yet, but once we do get into those, you'll see that there are many use cases here given the sheer amount of both the audit types and scheduled jobs that we have. So being able to optionally select the scheduled job to be run anytime that a particular alert has been triggered would make more sense once we do get into those. And of course, if we do have contact lists set up, which we created a very basic one a minute ago for our managers here, we can select one to send a message to. Now by default, the message will just be the alert name, but we can override that with a message entered into this text field here. And we can also choose to include some corresponding data for any of the flags that are set here as well, just to give a bit more substance to why that message is coming through. I will close out of this, but feel free to edit, or as I said, even delete any of the default alerts that are within the system if you'd like to. And of course, create some of your own. It should go without saying to use a bit of caution and your best judgment when editing or deciding to delete any of these though. Okay, so when warning and critical alerts do get triggered, how can someone who is authorized to handle them do so and mark them as okay? They can either go straight to the audit report, which we've seen, or using the warning and critical icon buttons at the top left, we can click on those to take us to the audit report, and it will be automatically filtered, showing only those alert levels. Now at the moment, we just have this 123 warning alerts that have been triggered since the start of this course, again, since this database was created. And we can see from this list, I've got that highlighted here, that particular alert has been triggered 22 times. So 22 times that the date and time have been changed. We can see 4 times that there was an ingredient not in store, 81 times that there was a local database send fail. There have been no critical alerts that have been triggered, so that's why there's no icon up here for those with an encounter. So what I might do is just force one using one of these defaults to give us an example here. So what I might do is I will edit this back office failed logon one. I'm going to change its audit level to critical. Go ahead and save that. And then I am going to log out of back office. I'm going to fail a logon attempt on purpose. That's going to fail there. And then I will log back in. There we go. We can see that that has been triggered, and we now have both alert icons showing for our warning alerts and our critical alerts. Now, if I click one of those, we'll do the warning alerts one. As I said, we'll be taken straight to the audit report, and it will be filtered, only showing the warning alerts that are currently not okayed. So the only flag that's turned on here by default by accessing the audit report using that route is going to be this one to include warning alerts. Now, I didn't show this earlier, but from within this report, I did mention this. We can filter this further. We can use these flags to show different levels of the audit, different audit levels, any combination of these if we'd like to include them together or not within the audit report. And we can also choose to include messages, which means that the other info column will show us any relevant information for each one. But I will actually turn these off. We'll focus just on let's do just our critical alerts, which we of course only have the one. So if I either double click on that, or we select it and then we click view/edit alert from the top, from the header section there, it's going to open a little window here where we can see all the pertinent information that is seen on the report, but in a bit more of a concise format. And once we ingest this information, so we've seen the data A, data B, so on and so forth, the date and time, the operator, venue, all this important information, and we're either A, satisfied that no further action is needed, so okay, someone failed their back office logon, no big deal, maybe they just entered their password incorrectly, or B, it's something a bit more serious and we've set off on an investigation or follow-up. What we can do is we can set the alert as handled. It's going to be marked as okay. We'll get a little message prompt here that the alert will no longer display as requiring attention. However, it will still continue to exist in the audit report. So we're not deleting this alert, we're only making it, marking it as okay, and we can still see it within the audit report. Now, as the audit report is filtered right now, it's been removed, and we could see that the critical alert icon is now gone as well, since there are none that currently need handling. If we do want to find that particular critical alert again, I will just need to turn on the include handled alerts flag here. Actually, I will turn all of these flags on so we can see everything now, and I'll display that. So notice that the critical alerts, even if they've been okayed, so this one that we okayed here, are still going to show in that red color. And if I find, yep, some warning alerts here, and let's just okay one of these, that is still going to show in that maroon color as well. But we can see that the level for that now is warning okayed, and the level for our critical one that we okayed is critical okayed. So those have been changed there, essentially the level or the status for those. Cool. Now, if we are reviewing a lot of alerts at once, we do also have buttons at the top that we can use to bulk okay them. So rather than going through each of these 122 remaining warning alerts, what we can do is just use this and okay them all in one fell swoop. We'll get a little warning prompt here that we have selected to okay all outstanding warning alerts. Let's go ahead and do that. Just like that, all 122 of them have been okayed, and we can see that that icon is no longer there with that counter. And if we scroll up, we can see that they have all had their status or their level changed to warning okayed. And again, just to reiterate, to maintain a certain level of system admin security, handling alerts is probably something that only 1 or 2 people within the business may be able to do. But yeah, that is our audits and alerts in a nutshell. But how about going beyond the out-of-the-box standard audits and creating some of our own? That is where custom audits come in. And we can find custom audits from within the system setup menu. Now, unlike the alerts, this list is going to be empty in a new database. So let's go ahead and add a new one. So for custom audits, there's a lot of configuration options here. So we won't go through all of these in this lesson, but should still be able to highlight the importance that these can play in a system's overall security program, and you'll get the gist of what this can be used for. I think I mentioned at the start, but these are transaction based, meaning that we cannot create custom audits for anything that happens, but for any transactions that can happen. So we do still have quite a bit of flexibility with creating them for retail transactions, stock transactions, table transactions, etc. Any of the transaction types that we can report on in the transaction report, we can also create a custom audit for. But that doesn't mean that we have to define a transaction type. We could leave this as any transaction type, and we could then use the product line section here to define a specific product or a product group and say that whenever that product or a product from that product group is involved in any transaction, we want it logged in the audit report. And the same goes for payments. So these 3 sections combine, they're all end filters, meaning that we can combine different things from these separate sections to customize the audit. Now there will be some limitations just to keep in mind. For example, if we define the transaction type as one that's stock related, if we scroll down, we can see there's some in here that are stock related. So if we defined the transaction type that's being referred to as a stock related one, it wouldn't make sense to set the payment type to like a tip payout or something like that. But anyway, let's go through these in a bit more detail. So firstly, just note that as with alerts, we can set a custom audit to be either on permanently, or we can create a schedule for it to be active for. So maybe whatever we're creating this custom audit for, we only want the system tracking during a specified time range or only on the 3rd Tuesday of every month, whatever the case may be, up to you, of course. Then again, as I mentioned, we've got the 3 sections, so a custom audit will take all 3 of these categories into account, but the transaction and the payment portions, as I said, can be set to these any options, so any transaction type or any payment type, and the product lines can be set without a specific product selected, so we could leave that as just none, and we can set some other things here. The idea is that we can match specific transaction conditions with any product or any payment type and vice versa, granted that we're keeping the inherent limitations in mind and creating a custom audit that is going to actually work and it's not going to fall over, not going to actually do anything because we're, pairing a transaction type with a payment type that doesn't make sense or vice versa. But anyway, for the transaction types, we have got everything in here from till startup to just a transaction being in progress or a transaction being canceled. So some important ones in here that we might want to create a custom audit for. We've got specific table activities and functions being completed, cash payouts and pay-ins, drawer clearances. So some important things here that we may want to look at and create some custom audits for. We've got delivery and pickup and bistro transactions and functions, stock functions from stock losses to transfers and receipts. And if we scroll down more, we've got some gaming related transactions and functions as well. So lots of different options here that we can choose from for the transaction type. Then once we select one, we can add some other considerations and qualifying parameters like total transaction, payment total, an item count, and payment to be equal, less than, greater than, etc., whichever amounts we set. We've got parameters for setting date and time of day and shift. So even if we are using a schedule, we can still fine tune and pinpoint further. We can set a certain price level that needs to be in use. We can set an order discount and an amount or percentage with qualifiers, and we can limit to only register in the system when these transactions happen in a specific venue, specific store, or at specific tills. If we have selected a store, we can then filter it further to a specific till. We can even set it for when an account holder matching to an exact account profile is involved in the transaction. And we can also pick out a certain operator or operator group to audit against. So what we might do is something like this. Cool, so maybe something like this where we've got a bartender that we suspect is doing something a bit shady, and they're within this junior dinner bartender operator group. So we want to specifically trigger an audit event anytime that a bartender from that operator group has a canceled transaction with a transaction total that's greater than or equal to $50. And also within that transaction, an order discount amount that is greater than or equal to $20, something like that for an example. Then if we want to get even more specific, we could set some product stipulations. So maybe we only care about bartenders canceling transactions if they've rung up a particular beer or cocktail. Maybe we would just go with our full cocktail group there, that whole product group. And then if we're getting products involved, there's a plethora of parameters that we can set here as well. So from product size to gross and net sales totals, quantity sold or redeemed using points, service charges, product discounts, even depending on which reason code has been used, if a reason code's been used for something. And then finally for payments, maybe we want an audit triggered for any payment type, but maybe only for certain ones. So we can choose to audit a specific card type or foreign currency if we've got those set up in the system, or we can audit tips or change or points being redeemed or account charges, just to name a few of the options here. And then we can set an amount, and we can use these parameters here, the equals, greater than, less than, etc. So maybe along with the other parameters that I've set here, we only care if these things are happening. So an operator from this group has canceled a sale greater than or equal to $50 with an order discount amount greater than or equal to $20 if they've rung up some cocktails, and if the transaction involves a cash payment. And yeah, we could just leave it at that. So lots and lots of options that we can use and mix together here for some perfectly tweaked and adjusted custom audits, though really bringing another level to our system security. And another argument for why only one or two operators in an organization would have the ability to create and manage custom audits in this case. Now then, taking things a step further, even after we have saved a custom audit and reopened it. So if I go ahead and save this, call this bad bartenders, and I'll just put this on permanently. Go ahead and save that. So after that's saved and we reopen it, what we can do then is we can add a custom audit that we've created to an alert, and we can do that right here and now. So after all, if we've taken the time to create this audit so that the system is going to log a record whenever this occurrence, this thing takes place that we're concerned about based on these parameters that we've set here, we may as well also link that to an alert so that we can be notified as soon as that happens. And we can do that using this add/edit alert button down here. Now that's going to open another small window showing all of our existing alert setups from the system. And we can either edit an existing one and we can set our new custom audit as the audit type, or we can add a new alert setup altogether. Now to use the custom audit in this alert, we need to scroll to the top of this audit type list and we need to select Audit Custom. You can see the options below will change here, and we'll then have a drop down where we can view any custom audits that have been set up in the system, and we can select the one that we would like to link to this alert setup. Then just configure the remainder of the alert setup options and save it, and our custom audit, no matter if it's refined to some very specific parameters or not, will also trigger an alert in addition to being logged on the audit report. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this one as is using that custom audit. I've got the custom audit assigned there. This will be on permanently. I've set the warning alert level, the audit level as a warning alert there, and I'll just go ahead and save that and close that. And go ahead and close that. Now, if we look back at our alert list, we will be able to see that in there as well. So what I might do now is head to SmartPause. I am logged in as an operator here who is in that operator group that we've decided to create that custom audit for. And what I'll do is I'll bring up some cocktails here and make sure that the transaction total is over $50 because we've set that to $50 greater than or equal to 50. And what I'll do then is go to our pricing menu. Let's discount $20 because we've got that set up as one of the parameters for a discount, an order discount amount being greater than or equal to $20. What I'll do then, so I'll cancel out of that menu, we'll go to payments, and let's go with cash, but I'm going to pay this $1 short of taking the transaction balance to 0. Cool. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to cancel the sale. Interesting. So what's happened there? We can see that our warning alert has been triggered there. So if we go back into back office here, we can be taken straight to that, and we can see that alert has been triggered for us based on that custom audit that we've created being triggered in the system, because I've gone ahead and done that. So we've seen that in action, really in full circle, with the custom audit created being linked to an alert and then triggering that alert when our bad bartender does something suspect here. And if we go ahead and view this alert, we can see again all the important information here. For data A, this is going to be the name of the custom audit, and we can see the transaction number that has occurred for, so we could then go and do some investigating there on that. But we'll just go ahead and set that one as handled. Now there's one final piece of this lesson left. So focusing on something a little bit different but still very much related to these topics is our till keylog report, which, similar to how the audit report can show us events or occurrences that have happened in the system, the till keylogs report can show every message prompt, list shown, list selection, alphanumeric input, button press, everything logged by operators at the tills. So we can find this report from our other reports menu, by the way, and it's going to be at the bottom, our till keylogs report. So as you might expect, we can filter this to a specific till if we'd like to. If we need to, we can filter it to a specific operator. So we might go ahead and look at our bad bartender here. And we can also set a date and time range down to the exact minute. Now, why would we want to look at something like this? If I go ahead and actually run this, I'll just do it for past 24 hours. So from this time yesterday until this time today, and we can see everything that our bad bartender has done here. So let's say we have a custom audit set up with an alert like we've done here. And as the operations manager of the venue, I've just gotten a message about an example just like this, where a transaction is over X amount of dollars and it's been canceled. We could then check this report, We can filter it to the operator involved for maybe the exact till in question if we need to, and we can see every single action and button press that led up to that canceled sale. So basically we can see the full story of what went on, because oftentimes there is more to it than just that a sale was canceled. So in this case, we can see literally every single thing that the operator has done here. And if there's something suspicious going on, the till keylogs report can help to highlight that. Now, there isn't really a whole lot to the report as far as the configurations for it and what data the standard view shows us, but at the same time, it is very informative. So we can see the date and time, again, down to the exact second, the transaction ID, so we can tie each activity back to that, the till name and the operator involved, the type of activity, whether it was a button press or a message prompt or a tender amount being entered, and then the details column will explain the rest. So, okay, it was an input and the input was such and such, or it was a message prompt that said, there's no message prompts. Oh, there we go, that you have not finalized this sale, so on and so forth. And then the next action was the operator pressed yes or no, or okay in this case. And then the next thing that happened was that the operator canceled the sale. So we can see what they did next, and after that, all the way until the transaction ID is finished. Basically all the little breadcrumbs that led to the point where the audit log was recorded or an alert was triggered. And sure, the till keylogs report can be used on its own, of course, separate from any audits and alerts, so it can be filtered to a certain keylog type if we'd like to. In this case, we don't have a ton there. If we just go back to all operators and maybe we change this to, a couple months or so, and I run that again, we're gonna have a few thousand things here, but we'll have some additional types that we can see here that have occurred. And we could also, maybe if we want to filter that to a specific transaction ID or something like that, we can do that also. But it is arguably even more powerful if it is being used with the audit report and with alerts, where a system admin can proactively be alerted about something that's going on and then come and check the till keylogs and see everything that was essentially surrounding that event that's occurred. Cool, but that will be it. So hopefully this session has highlighted some of our system admin security features and functionality, and hopefully you can see the combined power of audits and alerts and till keylogs and how they can really make a big difference in as far as system security goes. But yeah, that will be it for this lesson. Thanks as always for watching, and see you next time.